We're up breaking Q news. LGBTQ plus Cuba is on the brink of disaster. Secret on-island interviews with Queer News Tonight. On Sunday, when the largest protest in Cuba in a generation broke out, the official channels of communication in Cuba went dark. No internet, no Facebook, and only official news from the government. I have been to Cuba many times, and starting in 2016, brought the largest group of American LGBTQ+ in history to the island. I have returned many times, and Happening Out television network brought 40 representatives to the first Havana Pride in 2019. But everything changed on Sunday, and Queer News Tonight has not been able to communicate with LGBTQ+ Cuba since. We reported yesterday that the partner of the publisher of LGBTQ+ Washington Blade newspaper was arrested on Sunday and has not been heard of since the arrest. In the last 12 hours, we have been able to finally communicate with 4 members of the LGBTQ+ community and an ally to the community. These interviews were in 3 different locations in Cuba, including Havana, Cienfuegos, and Santiago de Cuba. We are going to report these interviews done from Facebook Messenger. We are protecting the names of and these interviewers because they are now illegal in Cuba and dangerous for those on the island. Here is a collection of the interview responses. These were live conversations with me, and we're going to ask and report the question and then what their answer was.
So the first question was, what is the current situation today, Wednesday, July 14th in Cuba?
It is dangerous here. The policemen are ending up hitting people. There have been many shootings. We are afraid. I want to get out of here.
We are reporting the partner of the Washington Blade was wrongfully arrested and has not been heard from since. Do you know anything about this?
I do not know him, but I fear for safety for those arrested. The government is trying to silence all that is happening here and will do anything they can to do that.
This next bit was an unsolicited comment.
Please, you could help me get out of here. I can't stand it anymore. We've been days without any internet, there's no food, there's nothing here. Does the outside world know what is happening in Cuba?
Are demonstrations still happening?
Yes, they are going on every day and in all towns of Cuba.
What do you think is going to happen?
This is ugly. I think the government is going to fall. Because there are many of us and the people are in command, activists, musicians, actors, and others are on the street.
How is the gay community participating?
It is quiet. They have not manifested. All the gay organizations, i.e. bars and shows, are owned by the government.
And why do you think you haven't seen the gay community involvement?
Because the government have not messed with anyone, and now that they are recognizing us a little more, they think it is better to be calm. Also in Cuba, there is a lot of homophobia, and the police are much more cruel with us than with women or men.
What happened to the internet?
Internet in Cuba went out on Sunday and has not returned. This is being done so we can't see the news, especially what is being said in America.
The next question was, how are you communicating?
I'm connected now by a VPN through an official organization secretly. It would be very dangerous if I was found out. Some are secretly on Facebook trying to get news in Cuba and in America. The people do not have access to Facebook now.
What is happening on the COVID-19 front?
They, the government, say they are continuing to vaccinate, but in most provinces, they have not been able to get it. We are hearing that there are 7,000 to 10,000 new cases a day.
And the next question was, are you receiving the Chinese vaccine?
No, it's the Cubana vaccine. And we note to our viewers There is no efficacy of the vaccine, and Cuba is not in COVAX, so no Moderna, Pfizer, or other international vaccines are going to be going to Cuba.
We asked, are Cubans seeing the protests going on in Miami and other cities, other U.S. cities in support of the Cuban people on your public media or social media?
We can't see them because we don't have internet. The government has restricted everything to us. It is dangerous to do what I am doing now using a secret access.
Are many businesses open, hotels, restaurants?
Only those of the government, but no one is in them. Restaurants that are open only do carry out. You have to have money to do that. There is no money.
So next question, so is there no tourism?
Nope. The last was the international destination of Varadero, but that has stopped because COVID-19 was coming in and the province had the most number of COVID-19 cases.
Why do you think artists are leading these protests in Cuba?
For the same reason as us, because there is no food, no soft drinks, no beers, no chocolates, no soap, no shampoo. There is nothing.
In the conversation, Al said, I promise I will come to Cuba when flights are restored and many LGBTQ plus friends will come with aid.
I'm crazy because you come. Yes, God, please.
If you could share a message to LGBTQ plus America, what would it be?
It's good to know you have not forgotten us. We are counting on you.
Powerful stuff.
Very
Where do we begin? My God, the oppression, the sadness, they're hungry. How long can you have people feeling that way before they revolt? That's what's going on. And to have no communication, so we really don't know what's going on. He can almost hear his desperation.
Yeah,
Multiple, I point out, there are 4 LGBT voices in these replies and 1 LGBT ally, a straight person that is a significant ally in Cuba. I can't say who.
I wish that they could see how many Cuban Americans and how many South Floridians are really standing up with them and are supporting their cries for democracy and freedom.
You know, one of the issues that I think is very important to be clear on in this conversation is the LGBTQ community in Cuba, and really all Cubans. They have no idea what's going on in South Florida. The protest that took place that closed the expressway of the Palmetto, they have no idea at all that Hialeah and South Florida is standing up in support for them because the Cuban government has effectively closed all communication.
And I know we featured just the LGBTQ voices, but this is the entire country.
Yeah.
Everyone is suffering so badly there. You know,
Right.
it's just
and it's not
horrific.
like things were super great before.
Right,
No.
yeah, exactly.
I mean, I think it's really important to just make the connection that democracy is very fragile, and we take for granted our freedoms and our liberties that
Yes, we do.
are trying to be taken away here in our country. And so, you know, it's great to almost have people here standing up for the fight for democracy.
So Al, I'm going to ask a dumb question, okay? I'm not Cuban. I'm married to a Cuban, and she has no family there. What could the U.S., what would they want the U.S. to do? And is that even something, is that even a possibility?
This is a stalemate beyond comprehension. When I went in 2016, I brought 600, mostly gay men to Cuba, the largest delegation ever. We brought supplies, we brought personal health care, we brought condoms and lube. Exactly.
Did you share them?
Yeah, he will.
Yes, I did, and they were I was very popular. Wait, that's a different story.
That was not my question.
Right. This is a difficult situation because at least when in the same government structure you could go and visit, you were able to bring money on island, you were able to send money to the island. Right now, the island is completely closed. It might as well have a 3,000-foot wall around it, because when they unplugged and turned off the internet, these people are literally risking dramatic issue.
And today, Secretary Blinken said if you try to come to the United States by sea or by air, however you might try to get off the island, you can't.
And as our government postures, and their government is not posturing, they're serious. who is caught are the people in the middle, the LGBTQ community. You can hear the desperation.
Yes.
We don't have money for food, and if we had money, there's no food to buy. And we can't get food on the island. We can't get a vaccine on the island.
COVID has run amok there. Oh my
Disaster
God.
is in the making.
Al, do you know anything, like in the 60s, Russia played a big role in supporting and back and building up the Cuban government. Do they play any role at this point?
They do not. The Soviet Union, because of its collapse in the 90s, brought the special period in the 90s. There's an old anecdote that the weight of the island, meaning all 12, 13 million people, the weight of the people in Cuba reduced in the 1990s by 1/3. And that was because they practically starved to death. The Soviet Union collapsed, and their principal beneficiary collapsed. China is now the principal force in Cuba, but they do not stand up in the same way of propping the economy up. And so as a result, money is scarce. The COVID-19, in combination with collapsing their tourism infrastructure, has been all of these stars to align, and LGBT Cubans are caught right in the middle. Two of the people that communicated with us today work in tourism, and they are in situations where there's no hope for them, and even to be able to speak to us today was like a monumental
I mean,
moment.
the tourism, and obviously when they changed policy again during the previous administration, although that was not a way to liberate Cuba, bringing tourism and American dollars. I know my parents visited, many friends I had visited during that time, and many people there who were renting Airbnbs and doing things like that were probably living the best life
Ever.
financially that
Yes.
they ever were. So yes, we may not be able to export democracy, but we can export, our dollars, and that goes a long way to helping their lives.
And
So,
now we can't.
Now we
Today
can't.
we cannot. In the conversation with the person in Cienfuegos, the person in Cienfuegos said that basically there had not been food. Cienfuegos is a relatively large city in central Cuba on the southern coast, and it's the only large city in that region. You're 40 or 50 miles away from another major city, and so in essence it's like a little kingdom in central Cuba, and that food had not been delivered to Cienfuegos in more than 6 days.
My heart breaks.
Imagine a city
I can't.
having no delivery
very
of food.
scary. This is during hurricane season,
Yeah.
Oh my
and
God.
imagine
And
again.
COVID.
And I feel so bad for the families here in South Florida. We have so many families here that have family there, and they can't communicate with them. They're worried about their family not having anything to eat while they can just walk down the street and go get an empanada. And it's
Yeah.
these crazy Cubans. They're not crazy Cubans. These guys decided to pack up a boat and say, okay, we're going over there and bringing supplies. I'm like, that's not going to work too well. They were stopped by a Coast Guard because they had a gun in the boat. I mean, people are going to do crazier things.
Yeah. For me, as we close this story, one of the things that was really important to me is several of these people risk dramatic. One went into an embassy that I contacted a friend of mine that works in the Italian embassy, and they're in a situation where they are willing to risk even this to be able to speak to the outside world they knew that they could trust in terms of conversation with me. But we are watching stars align that could be catastrophic. This is different than what we have watched in our generation.
But it could
This is-
also be transformative for the island, right? I mean, this is Bastille Day after all, the commemoration of people actually fighting for democracy.
I
Making
hope
that
that that is true, but what I'm scared about is in Bastille Day, we're watching a confluence of stars that means no food, no money, a military oppression, and a COVID-19 pandemic that is now beginning to burn through the island.
Humanitarian crisis.
It's a
And
humanitarian.
then
get a
I'm
lot
sure the
worse.
military is also not getting fed. Like, doesn't seem that there's enough there for anybody. So if they're also being affected by COVID, will they also drop their weapons and side with the people?
Yeah,
That-
and one final thought. I've frequently been voiced critical of the Hialeah community in terms of how they represent against Cuba. While they took to the streets on Sunday, and South Florida took to the streets, and they're blocking, highways and other kinds of things, Cubans are not hearing you. So you're celebrating, but here's the consequence of what's really going on the island. So your celebration is a celebration of the misery and potential humanitarian crisis that's going on in the island, especially in the LGBTQ community, because it's a marginalized community anyway.
Yeah.
We are going to continue, clearly, to follow this